Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Influential Life. I'm your host, Shadana Miranda. And on the Influential Life, we help women walk in their purpose and live a life of self fulfillment. And so today, we will be talking about the topic of travel and the importance of traveling. And I have a global educator as my guest, Dr. Stephanie Tilley. How are you, Dr. Tilley?
Hello. I'm doing well. Happy New Year's to you, Miss Cheney, and everyone who's tuned in.
Oh, thank you. So, would you like to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yes. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm so thankful to be here and just have a platform where women are elevated to walk in their purpose. My name is Stephanie Tilley. I'm in the process of getting my PhD in educational leadership. My background and research interest is regarding global travel, specifically how it impacts minority people and specifically minority women. How does it help with our self-confidence and self-efficacy? God has really blessed me and just allowed me to travel around the world and really experience the liberation of travel. So I'm really happy to be here.
That's good. I'm gonna say something I probably shouldn't, but you say my background. You black and proud.
Come on, my background. Gotta know. Yes, y'all.
I love
Black
it.
history
It's
is coming
Black
up.
History is Black
And
history.
then Women's History Month in March, so
Yeah.
my background. Because travel really has helped me just not only grow in myself, but grow in my blackness and understand blackness from the international perspective to see how vibrant it is, how complex it is, but most of all to see how powerful and beautiful it is.
Amazing. So I'm gonna jump off with the questions. Miss Tilley is giving us vibes. I'm sorry, Dr. Tilley. So what encouraged you to go abroad for the first time, and where did you go?
So I come from extremely humble beginnings, from New Orleans, Louisiana, very humble beginnings. My family have never traveled abroad outside of a cruise here and there, but to go on a plane and go to another continent, they've never done that. However, despite our humble beginnings, they encouraged me to dream big. And so I traveled first through books, through reading, learning about different cultures, learning about different perspectives. And I knew that when I went to college, that would be my ticket to actually go on a plane and travel. So for my first place was San Jose, Costa Rica. I was a Latin American studies minor in undergrad, and my emphasis was studying Black Afro populations within the Americas. And so it was a very powerful experience. It really humbled me. Due to my humble beginnings, I'll be honest, I carried a little bit of shame about my background, but going abroad made me realize how privileged I was, made me realize the blessings that were in my life. And to be an American citizen, we have so much access. And, we have a lot of opportunity to change our narrative. And so going abroad, it just was very eye-opening to me. And also, it made me realize how materialistic I was. I'll be honest, going abroad, you really understand the power of simplicity, and you understand the power of being present. And so it really just changed my lens about the world and how I carry myself, and more than anything, my value system. I always had a strong value system, but it alternated what I prioritized. And for me, I prioritize experiential learning. I prioritize experiences. I love gifts, but I prefer sharing experiences more so with people, because it's the memories that we make. It's the moments we share, and just that are very treasurable and priceless.
Wow, you touched on so many points. Like, where do I start? You touched on your privilege of going abroad. You touched on how it transformed you. And one thing I can say is, like, when I went abroad, I went to Ghana, West Africa. That was the first country that I went to. And that was so transformative for me, because going to a country in Africa, it was like, wow. living here in America, I always call myself African American, but I always felt like I put the American before the African. And so going to Ghana, I felt my black roots. I
Yes.
felt the African diaspora, and it just truly changed my life. And when I got back to America, I just felt proud to be a black woman. Like all of those stereotypes against Africa just
Yes.
went out of the window for me. And being an American, Africa is so stereotyped. It's just a stigma against it. You know, we're not taught our history. And it's so important for so many more African Americans to learn our history. And I've even gotten to the point this past month, like, I don't want to call no country in Africa third world. It's a progressive country. So if you're talking about Ethiopia, you're talking about Morocco, you're talking about Nigeria, it is a progressive country. It is not
Yes.
third world. And another thing you mentioned was the simplicity of everything, how you were materialistic.
And I didn't even
You didn't
consider
even-
myself materialistic.
And that's the thing, I didn't even think I was materialistic.
Mhm.
But when I went to Africa, I was like, wow. And I was
We have
able
so much in abundance.
we have so much, and I was able to see people who were happy with such little. So it really changed my perspective on things. All right, let's snap to that.
Amen.
So let's get on to the next question. So, what was the most significant thing you learned from going abroad, and how did it change your life?
Oh my goodness, so many valuable lessons. But I would say one of my most memorable travel experiences was in Cape Town, South Africa. So that's been my first and only experience on a continent. I had the opportunity to do a contracted job for a summer. And oh my goodness, I felt like when I landed, I heard the drums in the background, like the ancestors in my soul, my spirit. It was just like a feeling of peace and welcome, and just the most valuable experience is realizing we know this, but to really feel it is that we're more connected than we're different. You know, we
Yeah.
have so many similarities, especially when it comes to our Black international communities. You know, from our Black sisters and brothers in South Africa to the continent to Costa Rica. When I went to Costa Rica, I learned about the Black presence. Most of them come from Jamaican descent. And so just seeing that our experiences, our value systems are so similar, and I just hope that we can get beyond our biases,
Yeah.
especially the ones that have been mistaught to us through history, also misrepresentation on media, and that we can see that we're actually sisters and brothers, and we don't have to compare our stories, but we can uplift one another through what's similar, and also honoring our differences. And so that was truly a beautiful experience to be embraced by my African sisters and brothers. And Cape Town is such an international city. I met Black people from Brazil, Black people from Angola, Black people from Australia, and just to see the diversity of Blackness, but be connected by a commonality. It was just so beautiful. Like I cried like a baby when I cried because it was just a freedom, to see that wherever we go, we're here, we're making a presence, and we're valuable. And to know that we have a deep connection. To be Black, it's a revolutionary act, especially right now, what's happening not only within the United States but from a global aspect. To be Black is enduring, is resilient, is powerful, and it's beautiful. And I really am just thankful for my time there.
That's amazing. I want to go back when you first started. You talked about we have the same value systems. It's more similarities than
Yes.
differences. And that's one thing I noticed when I was in Ghana, West Africa. Like, I see myself in a lot of the women there, like just the culture. But when I came back to America and I interacted with African Americans, and then I made myself open to speak to more Africans, I noticed that there was a disconnect between Africans and African Americans. It's like, we don't really understand each other. It needs to be some type of conversation because it's so many stereotypes. They think things about us and we think things about them, and we've been put against one another. So
And I hate to blame this, but slavery, oh my goodness, slavery it has been so impactful on how we think.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, modern day slavery still lives on, and we have to wash away these stereotypes, wash away these biases,
Mhm.
because slavery wasn't not only physical slavery, but it's mental slavery. Unfortunately, that we're still fighting each day. And I agree, we really need to break down these stereotypes because it's just so beautiful, to connect and just be in community with one another.
I agree. I agree. So, what advice would you give someone who has never been abroad but would like to go abroad? And how would you recommend they prepare for their first time going overseas?
Have an open mind.
I agree.
An open mind. Just come with a blank canvas, no expectations, but just know that you're gonna go through an inward transformation and be open to that. Not only the good, but also the bad. I want to say not the bad, but the uncomfortable. When you're in a new space, you learn more about not only others but yourself. You learn how you interact. You learn how you integrate. You learn more about your value system, and you begin to question yourself, and you begin to, it's an inward journey. So be open to that and what that looks like, and just fully embrace it. Be in the moment. Be present. Be open to new relationships. A lot of people abroad, they're very open, and especially when they see that you have done your research and you've taken a like or an interest to their country, they're more than willing to help you and just navigate new terrain. So be open to new friendships. And the one tip I would give is do your research. Although come with an open mind, do your research about the value system there in that country. What are the social concerns? What are the political concerns? What's happening in the world? Read the news, see what's happening, so that way you have an understanding of what's going on, and you can be more connected to the place, and not just do the stereotypical things, the touristy things, but you can see the location from more of a realistic and naked perspective.
I agree. You talked about being open, and one thing I want to mention: be humble
Oh my
and
yes,
check
ma'am.
your privilege.
Check your
Because
privilege.
I've had to check myself a few times because I've been to a few different countries. And one thing I will say, like when I lived in Spain, it was very different for me because I lived with the host family. And there's something called siesta. So from like 12 to 2, everything shut down. And people who work a full-time job, they go home, eat with their family, and they take a nap. Being an American, we live this on-the-go lifestyle. You go from one job to another, you go from here, you go to there. But there, it was like during lunchtime, I didn't want to eat. Like I wanted to go, so I was like, oh, I need to go to the post office. I need to go to the store. I need to do this. But the entire country like just shut down. Nothing was open. And so the only thing I had to do was eat lunch and take a nap. And when I started taking naps because I had nothing else to do, I was so refreshed when I woke up.
Yes.
Like, oh my God. But I noticed that this convenience that we have in America has made everything convenient. Like from the ATM to convenience
To
store,
Wi-Fi.
to Wi-Fi to fast food,
Yes.
that we need everything right now. And so it's been a few times where I've been places like, oh, the Wi-Fi don't work, because the Wi-Fi is not the best sometimes in other countries. Like we have everything so convenient. So just check my privilege. And I'm gonna say one more thing because I know this is your interview. I went to Haiti and I went with some friends for a service trip, and we planted trees to sustain food for the people in the community. But we lived in like a forest, and we slept in like little huts. I can't describe it, but no TV, no music, cell phone barely worked, no mirrors. Only thing I could do was brush my teeth. I didn't know how my hair was looking. But when I tell you, when I woke up, I felt so good. I felt beautiful just as I was. I didn't have my cell phone. I couldn't look in the mirror, but it was just so amazing, like just living in a moment. And even like being a digital influencer and having to be on social media and post pictures and show people what you're doing is cool, but sometimes it's good to just live in a moment, you know?
Oh, Miss Cheney, do you mind if I piggyback? Because you were saying some powerful things, especially regarding privilege.
Uh-huh.
I never really understood the concept of American privilege until I went abroad. And being a Black American in the United States, I never felt like I possessed that privilege.
Mm-hmm.
But going abroad, it made me realize, example, like you said, be humble, because we are so used to convenience. We're so used to things just being accessible when we want it and how we want it.
Mm-hmm.
And being abroad, you have to have a level of humility and a level of understanding,
Mm-hmm.
and just realize, resources look different, and that's totally okay. You're gonna get your end goal,
Mm-hmm.
and even if you don't, just embrace that process. And for minorities, one thing I recommend, not American privilege is real going abroad. I was very surprised to see that I was first recognized as an American before I was recognized as being Black. Whereas here in the United States, my Blackness is very so much more present than my Americanness.
Yeah.
And so that was very astonishing to me. And I'll be honest, I did not want that privilege, but it was something that was bestowed upon to me because of where I was born.
Mm-hmm.
So to all my minority travelers, I recommend, embracing that privilege, although it may feel foreign to you,
Mm-hmm.
because we do have privilege going abroad, and it is something that we have to we have to recognize and take ownership of, and make sure that we're respectful and humble throughout that process.
I agree. So for someone who's traveling overseas for the first time, would you recommend they travel with a group, or would you recommend solo travel, and why?
Whew, that's a tough question. But I'm a very free spirit person by nature, and I've done both group travel and solo travel, and I love them both. But I personally love solo travel, but I only recommend solo travel to someone who feels fully comfortable, who feels fully safe, who's done their research, and who also is open to new experiences. What I love about the beauty of solo travel, your day, I never know what my day is going to look like. And I am open, and I am fully embracing of new relationships. I will meet someone at the coffee shop and have a 3-hour conversation, and then they'll make a recommendation when I intended to go somewhere else, but I will follow their recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that my day is constructed by whatever brings to me.
Mm-hmm.
With group travel, it can be extremely powerful, but make sure you go with like-minded people. Some people who are going to embrace the fullness of the perspective. Everyone, when they go to a new place or vacation, they have different intentions. Some people go to relax, some people go to party, some people go for cultural immersion. For me, I feel like you should enjoy the best of all worlds, and more than anything, really try to understand the realness of a location. So just be intentional about who you go with, and just make sure y'all are on the same page of what you want your experience to look like.
I agree. The first 2 times I went out of the country, I went with group traveling, and I felt a lot more comfortable. Mm-hmm. Having people there with me, being able to talk to. We had a guide with us, and then the next few times I traveled solo, and the experience is so amazing. It's really different. Like you say, I got to interact with the locals a lot. And I was in Spain, and I got on this app. It was called language exchange. So I was meeting up with different Spanish men and women every other day, and they wanted to learn English. I was trying to learn Spanish. So we would meet up for coffee. They would have recommendations. I was hanging out with the local Spanish people. So it's different versus when you go with Americans, you only hang with those Americans.
And you see that perspective.
You see a different perspective. I agree. So, just another question before we close out. So, what advice would you give someone who's eager to go abroad, but they don't have the financial means to make that dream come true?
The money will come. If you want the dream, manifest it and make it happen.
I agree.
So my first time going abroad was through Costa Rica. I knew I wanted to go abroad. I prayed, and honestly, I started working towards that goal a year before I actually went. I went for a full semester. I studied abroad there, and God gave me a scholarship, actually several scholarships, and it covered my full experience. And I also worked to make sure that I had money to travel and to live off. So come up with a plan, start fundraising, put it out in the air, tell people your end goal, tell people the purpose of it, and anything that's good, anything that's valuable, people will support. And since then, God has really just opened up many doors. Majority of my travel have not been self-funded. When I've had the opportunity to work abroad in Greece, and it was a job. Same with South Africa, and through those, by going to those places, I was able to travel to other countries for very affordable pricing. And the thing is, most places abroad is very affordable. The most expensive thing is the ticket. However, the living expenses and excursions are very affordable. Instead of, for me, I had to, in preparation to go abroad, I had to change some things, and it's okay. It's temporary. Instead of going out, instead of going out to eat, that money can be used for an excursion abroad, and excursions are extremely affordable. For example, I never thought that I would do this in my life. Although I'm an adventurous person, sometimes I get a little bit nervous, but I push past my fear, and I bungee jumped off the tallest bridge in the world in South Africa.
How was that?
It was scary,
but amazing.
But it was so freeing. I would do it again in a heartbeat, and it was extremely affordable. I thought, it was a little bit, but it was extremely affordable. What you would pay in the United States would be like twice or three times the price. But I say do it. It's experiences like that you can't take away.
I agree. And I always tell people when they ask me about traveling, I'm like, do not let the money hinder you. Because just like you, 95% of my travels was fully funded. Pretty much every trip I went abroad on was paid 100%. I paid some money out of pocket, but pretty much everything was fully funded. And I remember my first trip when I went to Ghana, it was my first time going abroad. I told my parents I wanted to go. And so they didn't have as much money to support me. So I went to the financial aid director at my university, got some money from him. I was a student worker on campus, so my department funded me. I wrote letters to all my family members. They sent me money in the mail. I'm telling y'all.
Use your resources.
I made it happen. So use your resources. And one thing I found out, the only thing people could tell you is no, but just keep writing, just keep emailing, just keep asking, because it's going to happen. Do not let money hinder you. And sometimes trips are cheaper than you think. You know, you can go somewhere close. You don't have to go somewhere like Africa. Like Africa is expensive to travel to, like just the plane ticket sometimes. Yeah. But like you said, you went to Costa Rica, and you can get a ticket to Costa Rica
for like $400. Yes.
Yeah, super inexpensive. So
yes, and one thing I do want to share for those who support you on your journey to travel, share your story with them, and also bring something back that connects to the country. Personalize it. For me, I feel like it's very important to give intentional gifts or intentional thank yous for those who support you. Make sure that whatever show your gratitude and your appreciation in a very personable way, and be open about your story and share that with them, because they wouldn't have supported you if they didn't want you to experience it in its fullness.
I agree. Definitely get souvenirs. I think my problem the first time, I got too many souvenirs. Like I ran out of money. Like I said. So then the next time I started trying, like, okay, I'm only gonna get the people who supported me and my close family and friends. But the best you can give someone before we leave, send them a postcard. When I go to the countries, I send the people that's close to me postcards. It's so amazing. So this has been wonderful and so amazing. Thank you, Dr. Stephanie Tilley, for joining us. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I hope you've learned something. I hope you're inspired to travel. If you've never been anywhere, go abroad. Don't let COVID stop you. No. Get you a ticket and catch flights. Not feelings, catch flights.
Catch some feelings too.
Yeah, catch some feelings too. Catch flights.
If it's the right one.
If it's the right one. Because I've also heard about people meeting their loved one abroad. So you just never know.
Yes, you never know.
So thank you for tuning in. This was part 1 of a 4-part series that I'm doing this month called Her Story. I'm sharing powerful stories of powerful Black women during the month of February, which is Black History Month. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you tune in next week because it's going to be a bomb episode. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Nowadays, we are busier than ever before. We are juggling family, work, a social life, and activism in our communities, all while trying to remember to practice self-love. Your style should reflect the dynamic woman that you are. Subscribe to The Influential Life for tips to making petite styles work for every component of your life, as well as weekly inspiration to help you thrive in life, not just survive.
For sponsorship opportunities or opportunities about how you can be a part of the show, please send an email to info@influentialpetite.com. That's info@influentialpetite.com. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.